Okay, Nitro Goyri, welcome to the RMN podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm great. It's amazing to be here, man. So honored to have worked with you, to finally be, as you said, chatting with you and kind of a face to face, nowadays face to face version of the face to face. But it's so amazing, man. I'm really delighted to be here.
Just so, me too, me too. I can't believe that we're finally speaking face to face. But let's get in. You've got an interesting life. Before we get into the songs and the details of the songs and all of this type of stuff, you've got such an interesting life. First of all, you're not just an artist, a singer, a rapper. You fight. You're a boxer.
Yeah.
That is. To be able to do both, split the head into two, and be a boxer and a fighter, and an artist. Talk to me about that. How did that come about?
Well, I've always loved fighting. I grew up in a family. My dad, he was a fighter all his life, not professionally or anything. He didn't box, but he always fight. He was always fighting in the streets and everything. So I grew up. My family, they love football. So when I was growing up, it was watching football and then watching boxing. Our team over here in Mexico is Chivas. So every Saturday was watching Chivas, and then after that watching boxing. So I grew up admiring boxers, and my dad, he's an actor, and he's a pretty big actor over here in Mexico. So I had the uh, privilege of getting to know a lot of famous people in between, and like between those famous people, there was a lot of boxers. I remember being a kid and having Julio Cesar Chavez at the house, Marco Antonio Barrera, going to fights in Las Vegas because my dad used to love or loves watching boxing. So I always admired boxers like I admire no one else, because I knew a lot of famous people. I knew actors and singers, and yeah, it's pretty cool to know famous people, soccer players, but well, football players. So I hate the word soccer, but
Me
yeah,
too. Yeah, me too.
yeah. But in America, it's fucking soccer. Fuck you. But I admire boxers like I admired no one else. So ever since I was a kid, I was the youngest. Well, my dad and my mom just had my brother who's 29 right now, and me, who I'm 23. But I have three other brothers from my dad's first marriage. So I was the youngest of my brothers. So I don't know, maybe that triggered something in me which I had to demonstrate. Like I'm the youngest, but I'm the, as we say in Mexico, el más cabrón, the toughest little kid. And my brother, who's 5 years, almost 6 years older than me, he used to kick my ass, when I was a kid. He used to kick my ass always, but he's not a good fighter. He used to kick my ass because he was bigger. But I remember once my dad told him, "Hey, this little motherfucker knows how to fight. You don't know how to fight. You're beating him right now because you're bigger than him. But there's gonna come a time in which you're gonna be the same size and he's gonna fucking kick your ass." And that happened when I was like 10, 11 years old. And I love fighting. I was playing soccer, but I love fighting. And then when I was playing in Chivas, I was already in the official Chivas team when as a kid, but already a part of the club. And there was a lot of pressure, because they already treated us as professional footballers, and I was like, this is not for me. I used to play just for the fun of playing. But I never saw myself as a footballer, and that's when I stopped playing football. But I was like, I have to do something. I need to do some kind of exercise, and that's when I started training officially, like officially training boxing, and I just loved it, and I fell in love with it, and I here I am now as a professional fighter.
I've been drinking Jack and Coke and a couple on the rocks. Homies always good to go. We don't need two flashing lights. Lot of killers on the block. Got a couple on the truck. I've been drinking Jack and Coke. It's gone. It's gone. Little motherfuckers out there, I willing to take the risk, yo. Got some eyes on my chest que combina con el wrist flow. $100 on my pocket, yo. Pero que en la cartera, cara, capumón. Si necesitan andar, es que le invito yo. Traigo un combo y en periférico. La neta, a veces me pongo histérico. Pero es porque mi jeta tiene precio, bro.
I've watched a few of your fights, and I mean, one fight in particular, I don't know if it was a professional or an amateur fight, but you had headgear on, but the guy that you're fighting really attacks you hard in the start of the fight. I mean, he really goes for you quite ferociously in the start of the fight. And I was amazed at your resilience and the fact that you rolled with that. You counter punch the guy. I mean, you really. I mean, you're a tough kid. I mean, you're not like a guy that's a normal. I mean, you've got a chin. You can give a punch. I mean, you're a good fighter. I mean, you're going places here, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the hardest part in boxing is not giving up. Well, it's actually what's really terrifying about giving up as one. There was this world champion like in the 80s, 90s. He was Vini Pacienza. I don't know if you heard of him. Guy who got paralyzed after an accident, and he was told like, you're never gonna fight again. And he had just become a world champion. And once in an interview after he came back to boxing and he fought Manos de Piedra Duran and he won, and like he did history. He was a really tough fighter. But there's this phrase that he said once, and it's that the most terrifying the most terrifying thing about giving up is that it's so easy. To give up is so easy, and if you're not like if you don't really want it, it's so easy to give up. And I've been there. Me personally, in boxing, it's when you got other things going on. Thankfully, I'm doing music and I have other businesses, and thankfully I can provide for my family and for myself. And it's not just like I just have boxing, but that can play as a disadvantage, because most of the boxers I know, it's boxing or nothing else. Most of the boxers, they've been boxing since they were 5 years old. They did fucking 200 amateur fights, or at least 100. I just did 11 amateur fights. I didn't lose a single one of them. I won every one of them, but I didn't have a vast amateur career, and that's one of the things that I regret, kind of, because I when you see the advantage that the amateur world can give you in the professional world, it's a lot. So it's all about really wanting it, because I've been there. I've been in the position of, do you really want to keep going when the alarm comes off at like fucking 6 a.m. in the morning, and I'm like, shit, have to go run, and then you have to start cutting weight, and then a lot of things that I ask myself, like, do you really want to do this? And I think that the thing that has kept me going all this time is my biggest fear in life. My biggest fear in life is being 40 or 50 and saying I could have been. That's my biggest fear. There's nothing that scares me more than regretting not taking advantage of where you are, like in life and in time, because the time that you can give to the sport as a human being is so short. It's not like I'm gonna be 50 years old and I'll be able to keep boxing. No, I'm gonna be able to keep making music, hopefully, and if God gives me the chance. But boxing, I just have I'm 23 right now. I'll give it, if I stay in shape and I'm a super professional athlete and I take care of myself, the most you can give is 40 years old. There's some type of athletes that go 40 something, but they're really pushing it, But I think that's what has kept me going. I know that I can accomplish big things. I love boxing. I think nothing gets me more excited than being inside of a ring. It's what fulfills me the most. I love the feeling of being there and just throwing punches and just being inside of the ring. I love it, and I just want to give it 100%.
I mean, you're 23. This is so inspirational, Nitro, because the reality is that, I mean, you're providing for your family. You just said it there a minute ago. And I mean, for someone at 23 years old to be able to provide for their family, be a professional boxer, be in the professional music industry, have other businesses on the side. I mean, 23 years old. Are you kidding me? I mean, most 23-year-olds I know are smoking a joint and they're sitting on their ass and they're playing PlayStation. You're out there living it. You're living the dream, man. You're out there pushing yourself. And where does that come from? Does that come from your dad? Where does this? I mean, not just the fighting, but where does this determination and want to win mentality come from?
I think, yeah, it comes from a lot of places. You know, my dad gave us, a lot of people think that because of my dad was a famous actor and, you know, he did a lot of fucking money, but he wasn't the type of that gives us everything. Ever since I was a kid, he was like, you want this? Earn it, motherfucker. Like, he was a kid that grew up in a ghetto, and he always kept that mentality, you know. Yeah, I accomplished big things, but I earned them. He wasn't the type of that, like, I have a lot of money, I'm gonna give everything to my kids. No, he gave us everything in the sense of knowing what you want, you can get it by yourself. It's not like he didn't, you want food, you have to, no, come on. He gave us a great life, but I think the most valuable thing that my dad gave me is the teachings of, you know, you can earn your things, you have to be someone for yourself. And I grew up, ever since I started making music and I started boxing, you know, it was pretty common in all of the interviews I had. It was, oh, and here we have the son of Sergio Goyri, the son of, and I always had this urge and this determination to stop being the son of, because a lot of people think when you have a famous dad, everything's gonna be easy for you, and it's not. The reality is you have a bigger fucking wall to climb over. It's not like everything you do. I'm gonna say an example. When I was 15 years old, I had my first big concert. I sang in a 30,000 people concert. It was not just me. It was a lot of artists, and it was a big event here in Guadalajara. But I was 15 years old singing in front of 30,000 people. And when you compare that to, you know, I told my dad, hey, I'm in front of 30,000 people. He's going to be like, yeah, well, once I sang, because he had a couple records too when he was in his prime. He did some regional, and he made shows for 200,000 people, you know. And whatever you do, there's a lot of people going to say, yeah, but your dad did this. Or, yeah, but it's because of your dad. Yeah, you're fighting a main event or you're selling tickets, but it's because of your last name. You're in this program, but it's because of this. So I think like a lot of this determination that I have is because I've always been hungry to be my own person, you know, to be myself. Thankfully, nowadays there's people that tell me, isn't your dad Sergio? Oh, that's or my dad laughs now because there's people telling him, aren't you the dad of this motherfucker? And he's like, man, how the tables turn, you know, now there's people telling me I'm the dad of. But of course he's proud. But you know, it's a combination of the values that my family gave me. Right now you were saying there's a lot of 23-year-old people right now smoking a joint. Yeah, well, the difference is I started living when I was pretty young, you know. I was 13, 14, and I was already committing like making mistakes with my life. I was using drugs when I was pretty young. I started making money when I was like 12. I was already working. So when you start working and knowing or dealing with older people than you want to demonstrate, and you start drinking and you start using drugs and you get caught up with the wrong crowd, you know. And a lot of the things that I say in my songs, like A Night in Jalisco, there are true things, you know. I'm not just singing to other people. I'm actually telling stories that I lived. And growing up in a country as dangerous as Mexico is, and it's not a place where you fuck around, you know. If you're gonna say something or you wanna be someone, you have to be willing to take the risk. You want to make money when you're young. There's not a lot of options. You know,
No.
even though, and there's a lot of people that say, come on, man, you grew up with a fucking golden spoon or whatever. Man, I was doing my own thing. My dad was, I don't know, we're filming, and there I got to live through my dad's divorce and shit. I was doing my own thing. I wanted to know the world. I wanted to make the same money that my dad was making. I wanted to people that to know that I didn't need my dad's money, and that I didn't need from my family's whatever, but I wanted the same lifestyle. So there's not a lot of options for a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid to make a lot of money at that age. You know what I'm saying? So you start making fucking decisions that make you mature and make you grow up pretty fucking fast. Because if you don't, you either die or you end up in prison, as I could have been, you know? So yeah, right now I'm 23. I'm already more centered. I don't fuck around no more, because I already have a family, because I have a kid who I want to give a great example to. But at the same time, I don't fuck around because I already did. You know, I don't need to smoke a joint nowadays because I know what the fucking joint does. I don't fucking do blow because I got the nickname Nitro because of something, you know. I was pretty young and I was doing a lot of shit. And there was people saying, "Oh, motherfucker, you like that shit? You're like nitro, and that's where the nickname comes from, you know." No, not a lot of people know that, but I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger. So that I think wisdom doesn't come with age or with time. It comes with experience. I know fucking 60-year-old people that are dumb as fuck, and I know 15-year-old kids who have been through a lot of shit, you know. They can teach you a lot. So
I mean, when it comes down to, though, I mean, your personality and everything about you is really inspiring in the respect. I mean, you come from Mexico, so explain, just for the people that don't know Nitro. I mean, where about in Mexico are you actually from? Where did you grow up? You know, what was, you know, explain the area and so on, so people understand where you're at.
I was born in Mexico City, which is the capital of Mexico. But here's a funny thing that a lot of people don't believe, but like football over here, and for my family especially, is a big thing. So big that we moved to Guadalajara because of the team we love, that is Chivas. We moved to another city. My dad is crazy about Chivas, and so we grew up like crazy about Chivas, you know. I grew up in Guadalajara, and at the same time, I spent a lot of time in California. So I also grew up in California. My dad used to have a house over there. Then when I was 15 years old, I went by myself and lived in California a couple of years. I was training already with Mikey Garcia, with Robert Garcia. I trained with Lomachenko for a couple of years too. And yeah, so I basically grew up right now I'm in Guadalajara again. So yeah, I grew up in Guadalajara in California, but I'm from Mexico City.
How often do you go and see Chivas?
Every time they play. I have them right here. Chivas for me this is my life, man. Like it's I don't want to be corny about it, but you know, you're from a country in which football is a big thing too. So
it's the national sport. It's the national sport.
Yeah. So you can relate. You over here, like especially for me, for my family, Chivas is like when Chivas plays, it's just watching the game. Me personally, I'm about going to the stadium. I don't like to watch them on TV. And when I go to the stadium, I don't go to a private box or to VIP. No, I like to go with, over here in Mexico, we call them barras, las barras bravas, which are like the hooligans or the firms over there in England. The guys are always singing and shit. That's where I go. I
was going to ask you about that. In Mexico, I mean, obviously we've seen lots of documentaries where River Plate play Boca Juniors in Argentina.
I have the River Plate. I also love River Plate. Here's the tattoo.
There you go. There's River Plate there, right there. So I mean, is there the same rivalry in Mexico amongst the teams when you play? Is the same kind of hooligan thing, the same kind of fighting in the streets and things? And
Here's a interesting fact. If you, I know not a lot of people believe this, but here's the science behind what I'm about to say. Chivas is one of the teams with the most fans in the world. And you can say, no, what about Real Madrid, Manchester? There's a lot of more popular teams. Yeah, there's a lot more popular teams. But when we're talking about which are the biggest countries in which the first sport or the national sport is football, those are Brazil, then Mexico. We're talking about a country with 300 million people, which is Brazil. Then Mexico is 130 million people, and football is everything.
Yeah.
So you have two of the most loved or hated, but two of the teams with the most fans in the world. That's Chivas, they're number one. Then America, which is we're rivals. It's like saying Manchester and Manchester City and Manchester United, or I don't know, River and Boca. River played in Boca. So last time I checked, the team with the most fans in the world, which is like around 50 million fans in the world, is Flamengo de Brazil, and then it's Chivas. So over here, Chivas is like the team. Another interesting thing is Chivas is the only team in Mexico which plays with only Mexicans. All of the Chivas history, there has been not a single player from another country. It's only Mexicans. So
Now that I love.
yeah.
Because I mean, when we look at, I mean, I'm in Scotland right now, and the Scottish football teams, the two big Scottish football teams who, I mean, the rivalry between them is insane. Celtic and Rangers. I
Yeah.
mean, it is insane. I mean, when they two teams play, I mean, it's just incredible, and it's went like that for years. But in the history of football, Celtic won the European Cup, 1967, with all Scottish guys on the team. There was not a single guy from outside of Scotland. In fact, they all live 5 miles or 6 miles from the stadium,
No way.
and they won the European Cup, and they beat Inter
Shit.
Milan in the final and whatever. And Rangers have won the European Cup Winners' Cup, and so on and so forth. But when you get into it, it's a bit like Barcelona. Barcelona did really, really well for a long, long time, and the only foreign player I think they had for a period of time was Messi. Everybody else was Spanish, and they'd all came through the academy. But even Messi had came through the academy.
Yeah.
He came through at 13, 12, whatever. And so that I really love that about Chivas, that it's all Mexicans. So I mean, how do they do in the equivalent of the Champions League, which is the big thing over in Europe, where all the teams from all the leagues? I know you guys have got the same thing in I mean, how does Chivas do? Do they compete?
We won over here is called the Conca Champions, because the CONCACAF, the name of the organization that controls the Northern American League. We won it. The last time we won it, we have like 3 or 4. The last time we won it was in 2018. I was there, and it was amazing in penalties against Toronto.
Wow. You must have been super excited there. That must have been a moment.
I was crying. I'm gonna send you some videos of how I you don't even know how I get with Chivas. I have videos like crying, and I was there at the stadium. That was a very exciting game, because over there because it over here CONCACAF Champions still a 2-leg final. So you have the away and the home game. It's not like the Champions League, in which is just one game. So, or the Libertadores, like Copa Libertadores in South America, it used to be a 2-legged final. Now it's just one game. Over here in the Conca Champions, still a 2-game final. So in Toronto, Chivas won 2-1 over there in Toronto, and over here we started winning 1-0. So we were 3-1, in the aggregate, but then Toronto scored 2 goals, so it was 3-3, and so it was such a stressful game. Then we went to penalties and we won. So I always say, I tell my wife, if I don't know when or how, but Chivas is about to give me a fucking cardiac illness or something, I have to fucking relax, because I get too excited, I get too stressed when it's an important game.
So I mean that's your passion. I mean, what was it like growing up in Mexico then? I've been to Mexico, but probably only the touristy parts and whatever. So
Yeah.
I haven't been in the sort of. I mean, what was it like? Was it rough? Or was it just, is that part being blown up a bit like, America? You see all the movies and things where, I mean, I've been all over America, and there's a couple of crazy streets, shall we say, or a couple of crazy neighborhoods, but in general, America's pretty okay. I mean, is Mexico the same? Or?
Well, it's nah, it's not the same at all. Over here, you have to really watch out where you go to at what time, who are you hanging with, who do you have problems with. You can, like, nowadays in Mexico, you cannot even honk to someone else in a car because you might get fucking killed. So
Oh.
Guadalajara, it's always been safe in the matter of not a lot of robberies, not a lot, not like, it's not all like other states in Mexico in which you have a lot of kidnappings. It depends on it always depended on it's gonna sound bad, not even on the government, but on the cartel who controls your city. There are cartels that do a lot more kidnapping and extortioning and like the dirty and bad type of business. In Guadalajara, it's always been more like just drug cartels, so they don't fuck with people. But still, you have to know who are you with, and don't make a bad face to someone you don't know, because you don't know if he knows someone that can get you whacked. So yeah, over here in Guadalajara is just be careful who you fuck with, because
And does the boxing help you with that? I mean, because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I see your TikToks. I mean, people that are watching this should check you out on TikTok. But I mean, your TikTok and your different videos, you seem a very from someone that's came. I mean, I've met a lot of people from, shall we say, rough neighborhoods or rough places. I've met a lot of people that came from Compton and LA and places like this, and there seems to be a certain confidence about, and I think you've got that. You've got this certain confidence, air of confidence. Has the boxing helped you with that? Control your temperament, control your need to have street fights and things like that. Has it controlled everything,
yeah.
made you more professional?
Yes, of course. At the end of the day, when I made my professional debut, it's like you sign a contract in which you cannot fight anymore in the streets unless you get attacked first. So ever since I became a professional fighter, I think I've been in at most two like real fights, but I always make sure he throws the first blow. I always make sure, like, okay, you want to fuck with me? Throw the first fucking blow, and then I'll get you fucked. I know how to counter punch. I just wait for them to throw the first punch. But yeah, over here it's not even about, oh, who wins the fight. It's about the risk. Everyone over here has a gun already, and or as I was saying, you don't know. You might fuck someone over, and yeah, that is that. But then you get to know, like, he was the nephew or someone or the friend of a friend, and that's where it gets tricky. So more than boxing, yeah, boxing has helped me a lot, but I think what has helped me a lot too is that I've been through shit. I've been through a lot of shit that people don't know, and I cannot talk in my songs a lot of like you. I'm not the type of artist who's gonna say what he's been through, because I've been through some legal problems, some neighborhood, and some fucking like big problems over here in Mexico. But that has made me who I am today, and that gives you experience, and that gives you also that knowing people. I have a lot of friends, thankfully, who watch over me, and who I know I can count with them in some situations. But yeah, it's all about being humble, level-headed, and just just minding your own business and not disrespecting no one.
We've discussed you being in the fight game and getting into the fight game, growing up in Mexico. When did the music start coming into play?
I think the music was always there. I've always loved music. I grew up going to my dad's shows when he had this singing part of his career. He's not a singer, but he was a pretty famous actor, and he just made a couple of records. They went big. Like I think he has 1 or 2 platinum albums. And so I was 3, 4, 5 years old, and I was going with him to his shows and everything. And I was like, oh, I fell in love with it too, and I've always been, I think, a creative type of person. I loved writing ever since I was a kid. I played to write movies or stories for my dad, so then I started rhyming. And that's when I fell in love with music, and I fell in love with hip hop specifically because my older brother, he used to play CDs of Lil Wayne, Eminem, 50 Cent back in the day. I'm talking about 2000s. So I grew up listening to hip hop, and at the same time, my dad, he's always been a jazz and a regional Mexicano lover. So I've always admired real, like I've always been a type of artist or the type of person who puts a lot of attention to the lyrics of the song. I always try to make a good and a smart and song that makes sense lyric wise. So yeah, I fell in love with hip hop because God didn't give me the voice of Sam Cooke. If I could have, like, if I had a good voice, maybe I would have made. I love blues. I love jazz. Like I have Sam Cooke tattooed right here. Like what I listen to, most people think that I spend my days listening to rap and hip hop. No, I actually love Frank Sinatra, Sam Cooke, Ella Fitzgerald. In Mexican boleros, there's this genre that is called boleros, which is old type of like old music, but it's like romantic letters and all that. So I fell in love with real music, and I started rhyming, and that's, I think, I had some friends over there in the United States that were rapping ever since we were kids. So we used to go to the park and just rap, and I got in love with the culture and everything. So I started rapping, I started rhyming, and I made my first songs. I wrote my first songs when I was like 8 or 9 years old. Then when I was like 12, I recorded my first song. So yeah, it's been there always.
I mean, and you've got quite a following already. I mean, you're already sitting with a million TikTok followers. Your Instagram and it's doing well. All your social media is doing well. But I mean, I mean, currently we're working together. We're working on some music. So
Yeah.
explain to everyone how that came about and the records that we've made so far, so that they can get a vibe of what and why they're also split in Spanish and also English as well.
Well, we met because of my manager, Jose, who told me you were the guy. He told me this is the guy. He's been a friend a long time. I started working with Jose this year, a couple months ago. So you were the first person he talked to me about, like in the music world. You and this other producer from LA, Fernando Cavazos, which we're working with a couple of tracks with him too. But yeah, I think we made a pretty good click when we met. When you sent those first bits, I fell in love with the beats. I think the song that just came out, which is "A Night in Jalisco," I fell in love with that beat since I, like, the first time I heard it. I was like, oh man, this can be something very special, because I think it's the perfect combination of what's trending right now, which is the regional mexicano over here with the corridos tumbados culture and everything, which is kind of new. Like right now, one of the biggest artists in the world is Peso Pluma, who's making this type of corrido, but it's a new type of corrido. But then you came with this, which I think it's even newer because it's pretty original. Like I think it's unique because it has the essence of the corrido with the guitars and everything, but then it has this pretty authentic hip hop and trap vibe, which is with the drums and everything. So I knew we could make something pretty special with it. And why in English and Spanish? Because you have 50 million Mexicans living in the US who grew up speaking in English, and they also know Spanish. But I think there's a market right there. There's a market which is unexplored, because they just sell Mexican music and which is in Spanish, and that's that, or they listen to hip hop and American hip hop which is in English, and that's that. So I said to myself, why not both? Why not sell a pretty unique, authentic, regional corrido from someone who grew up in the culture, you know, who knows face to face all these stories of violence and of you know what the culture means, but also grew up over there and knows the slang and knows the real way to express hip hop. Because you know, there's been a couple artists who have tried mixing it, but they don't know the real Spanish, like the real Mexican, because you can talk Spanish, but there's a big difference between speaking Spanish and speaking Mexican. You know, like if you can learn Spanish in a school and whatever, or learn Spanish over there, but you can come to Guadalajara or to Ciudad de Mexico, and we speak pretty differently, you know, and I know that, and I grew up here, and I also had the fortune of, you can speak English, you can learn how to speak English, but if you didn't had friends from the ghetto and from Compton and from Oxnard who speak the real English that people over there are speaking, they won't connect to you. They won't feel it real. So I try to explore that. You know, I try to make it happen in a song, and I think we did pretty well. You know, I love the
It's
song.
awesome. It's an awesome track. I mean, it's a really good song, and I mean, A Night in Jalisco. Explain the video though, because I mean, we saw the video for the first time. I think it was yesterday or the day before, and I mean, it's a really well shot video. It's really, but explain the story behind the video. Explain because I mean, it looks like you're in trouble, but there's lots of distractions. There's ladies in it. There's all kinds of things happening in it. You gotta tell me about a bit behind the background behind that video.
So when I was writing the video, I was writing it with my producer, and I knew who I wanted to shoot it. Like this producer from over here who has made the music video for the biggest rappers here in Mexico, who's Jos Macias. I knew I wanted him to shoot this video, but I was writing it. So I wanted to like really send this, like get you in this vibe of, there's this guy who's singing, he's in a dangerous place, he's surrounded with dangerous guys, and he's in trouble, but also with this little taste of what a hip hop video is, but because it's not just a regional video, just a banda or a corrido video just with the guns or whatever. No, I wanted to give a little hip hop taste to it, you know. That's why I thought of the dancers. At first I didn't know, like I made the mistake of not specifying to the producer the type of outfits I wanted for the dancers. So when they arrived, I was like, fuck, I'm gonna be in trouble with my wife, man. Because I wanted like something more. I wanted them to be dressed as military girls, or I don't know, maybe like fucking hitmans or something, you know, just like with a vest, like a police vest or whatever. But I didn't specify it. But I think it went good. It looked good, you know. We made a pretty good set with the lights and everything. My favorite shot is the one in which I'm arrested with the two soldiers, but and that is a pretty unique shot, because there's a big, over here in Mexico, there's a pretty big difference between being arrested and just you by yourself with the picture and you're a nobody. But if you're arrested with two military guys, it's because you're someone. Like, if you look at the news from Mexico, every time they get a big boss, it's like with the military guys, and it's the army who takes care of the mission. And then when they're taking the pictures, is the military guys are, it's not police officer. No, it's this guy. The army had to go to this motherfucker because the police couldn't do it, you know. And that's the message that I wanted to say. Like, this is an important motherfucker because he's from Guadalajara, he's from Jalisco. And also the message of this song is, I'm not singing and I'm not disrespecting no one, because I don't say no names. I don't say no names of any organization, because it's pretty dangerous over here. But if you look at the history of Mexico, every major organization throughout the years. When they had the best years or their golden age is when they had control of Jalisco, of Guadalajara. It's as if the name of the game was take care of the borders and have control of Guadalajara. Guadalajara is the capital of the organized crime organizations. Like, if you have control of Guadalajara, it's because you're making things right in the wrong sense of the like, you're making things right in the wrong world, but if you have control of Guadalajara, every major organization has either had control of Guadalajara or tried to get control of Guadalajara. Doesn't matter if you're from Sinaloa, Michoacán, El Golfo, that like the other side of the country, the east side part. They all want Guadalajara because it's a major city. It's a city in which it all goes through Guadalajara. When it comes from the south, it has to go through Guadalajara, and then it goes to Tijuana, to the borders, and finally to the US, no? But that's the message that I want to send. Like, doesn't matter who you work for or where you're from. If you're in the bad business, you want Guadalajara. You want to be here. You want to have control of Jalisco. So at the same time, Jalisco is a pretty dangerous place to be fucking around. Like, the message of the song is, at the end of the day, don't fuck around here. A night in Jalisco could either be the best night of your life, because Guadalajara is also famous for having the most beautiful women in Mexico, and it's famous for having like beautiful women. You can either have the best night of your life, but if you fuck with the wrong people, or you look at the wrong woman, or you whatever, it could be the worst night or the last night of your life. So
I've been drinking Jack and Coke and a couple on the rocks. Homie's always good to go. We don't need two flashing blocks. Lot of killers on the block. Got a couple on the truck. I've been drinking Jack and Coke. Every night you hear it. Jalisco. A lot of motherfuckers out there. I'm willing to take the risk, yo. Got some eyes on my chest que combina con el wrist fold. You don't wanna fuck around here porque pagarás el precio. A night in Jalisco. Una noche en Jalisco. Acá no le juegues a Superman que amaneces en el piso. Ya conocí a muchos chicos que se pierden el vicio. En Guadalajara hay mucho vato que es pesado por oficio. Una noche en Jalisco. Got a couple hundreds on my pocket, yo. Pero acá en la cartera, got a couple more. Cenitan andares que le invito yo. Traigo un combo y en periférico. La neta a veces me pongo histérico, pero es porque mi jeta tiene precio, bro. Esta vida es un riesgo y así vivo yo. Y si me voy temprano es porque me tocó. Lot of motherfuckers told me te vas a morir, pero yo aquí sigo, solo me queda reír. Get a bottle of tequila and a couple beers. Esta vida es muy cortita, así que hay que vivir. Jalisco. A lot of motherfuckers out there are willing to take the risk, yo. Got some eyes on my chest que combina con el wrist fold. You don't wanna fuck around here porque pagarás el precio.
So I want to know what your opinion of the whole Nitro package is for Europe and the rest of the world.
I think I know every artist says this because they believe it, but I really think what we're doing, it's unique. It has its own, like, I've never heard a song like A Night in Jalisco or the other songs that we're making. I think this combination between Mexican language and how we talk in Mexico, and this authentic also English, because I had the opportunity of growing up over there and learning over there. So it's pretty unique. What we're doing is pretty unique, with the combination of your music with what works, and these amazing beats and amazing productions. I think it's a pretty unique package that is gonna portray a real vision of what a Mexican kid from Guadalajara is. you know, and a kid who also grew up in the US is and how he thinks about. So to Europe, I say, if you really want to know what the Mexican culture is, of the corridos and everything, you have to listen to A Night in Jalisco. I think you're gonna love it. It has English, it has Spanish, it has some amazing music in it. So I really think everyone can enjoy this song and the other songs that we're gonna release pretty soon.
But okay, listen, fantastic interview. Loved it. Thank you very much, Nitro, for your time, and we've got to know you a lot better now.
Thank you, man, and I hope we can meet pretty soon, you know, to have another chat. I had an amazing time, and I'm here for whatever you need, man.
Thank you very much, Nitro. You take care.
I've been drinking Jack and Coke and a couple on the rocks. Homie's always good to go. We don't need two flashing blocks. Lot of killers on the block. Got a couple on the truck. I've been drinking Jack and Coke. Every night you hear it in Jalisco. A lot of motherfuckers out there are willing to take the risk, yo. Got some eyes on my chest que combina con el wrist fold. We don't wanna fuck around here porque pagarás el precio. A night in Jalisco, una noche en Jalisco. Acá no le juegues a Superman que amaneces en el piso. Ya conocí a muchos chicos que se pierden el vicio. En Guadalajara hay mucho vato que es pesado por oficio.